All right, my friends, finally, and then we'll turn to the audience questions. San Francisco, like many cities, is having considerable difficulty satisfying the demand for middle income and workforce housing. We've touched on this a tad, but I'm wondering if you would address this issue in chief. How, if ever, will we be able to produce substantial amounts of housing that address the need in particular of those in the middle income range? Will it ever be the case that San Francisco can again be the place that middle income earners can live and raise a family? Or is that to be relegated forever to the suburbs or the exurbs? Dr. Kroll?
Well, I do think it's largely a regional question, and that for decades it's been relegated in large part to surrounding communities. To the extent that San Francisco has been able to accommodate some middle-income housing, it really has had to be through the various subsidy programs. And that's the way it is. At the same time, with us, we do have a strong transportation system into the city, which has made it possible to relegate middle-income housing to places where that are accessible. And the issue has been more not just in San Francisco itself, but in the more accessible surrounding communities. Even there, it's become less and less possible to have housing for the middle-income earners. And so I think any solution that comes has to be looked at on a regional basis.
Yeah, I'd also add, San Francisco has had an interesting policy around affordable housing for the last number of years, which really affordable housing in San Francisco has almost exclusively, at least on the rental side, meant very low-income housing. And even on the for sale, up to 100% of area median income, there is an opportunity for the city as a matter of policy, if this is a priority, that when we look at projects that have to have a affordable housing requirement, that requirement could be satisfied in part with workforce housing, which is at a higher income level. Two advantages of that: on marginally financial projects, that'll help, right? And second, it will or could help counter this sort of barbell effect that we've had in San Francisco for so long, where to the extent we're building subsidized housing, we're building it for folks at very low income levels, and the way that we cross-subsidize that with is the land value that comes from very high-end market rate housing. So I do think there is a shift that's occurring. This is an issue that the labor unions in San Francisco have become interested in. It turns out that there are a lot of members of the unions in San Francisco, and if the wife is a Muni driver and the husband is a nurse at San Francisco General Hospital, they make too much money to qualify for almost all of the subsidized affordable housing that we provide, but they don't make enough to buy a house in San Francisco. So I think this is an interesting policy debate that's going to be growing over the next couple months.
And I just want to comment that I think part of this policy debate should occur up in Sacramento by everyone sort of in this room getting engaged in how tax credits and this money that I've been mentioning to you coming from Washington, D.C. is going to be spent. I mean, right now, the Tax Allocation Committee, California Development Advisory committees, couple of these committees have to decide how they're going to spend a lot of money that they're getting from Washington, D.C. And it is a lot of money. It's $325 million of direct grant money. It's $800 million of tax credits that maybe will turn into about $300 million of cash dollars and about $400 million of tax credits. So it's well over $1 billion of money that the Tax Allocation Committee is going to decide where it goes in California and what types of projects it goes to. And that's completely ignoring all the taxes and bonds. Tax and bond projects can suddenly start to make sense again, but eventually they will, and that's billions of dollars as well. So there is sort of money out there. It's just a question of who's getting engaged and where the money's getting directed.
Please.
Sadly, I mean, this is where I think it's sad that in San Francisco, I actually see San Francisco, you can have a whole bunch of rich people and a whole bunch of poor people. I absolutely don't see, quote, workforce housing happening. All subsidy programs at the max are at 60% of area median income, which absolutely does not address, quote, workforce housing. There is not the political will. I've not seen the political will in this community to really take on workforce or folks that are perceived not to be poor seem to be not represented. There's a lot of emphasis on the 20 to 30 to 40% area median income population, but there are no programs that I'm aware of. And on the federal level, there is no money yet to address people that earn over 60% of area median income, except for the new market tax credit stuff that will come up. But in this city, in order to make a deal work, you can set aside 20% of your project for lower income, and then you've got to be massively wealthy and pitch to the massively wealthy in order to get the project built. There is absolutely no will in this city that I've seen. And we've seen a lot of projects for potential financing that can address, folks earning $125,000 a year.
As long as we're talking about the impossible and looking out a long time, if you could channel the thing that Cynthia was talking about, the money towards making the public education system attractive in San Francisco, what you would have is effectively a $150,000 income increase to people who have 2 or 3 kids. Because if you're going to be in San Francisco and you're going to have your kids in school and you're going to decide they want to get a super high education, they're going to be in a private school, they're going to pay $30,000 a year each, which is $50,000 to $60,000 pre-tax. And so the affordability factor would change dramatically if families who could afford a moderate house could then take the money and put it into the housing instead of having to do it in the private education, which means they move to Piedmont or Marin or somewhere down in the South Bay. So if we're waving magic wands around, if education in the city and thus the state could ratchet up dramatically, you could change the nature of workforce housing. Maybe more so than, I don't know if that's slower than the political will or faster, but it might be a dead heat.
I just wanted to comment on Steve's comments about the programs. I certainly agree with him that the programs that are out there, the subsidy programs, are generally 60% area median gross income or less. And however, there's sort of 2 directions to go. There could be more of a political movement to say, let's not just be at 60%, let's have some higher levels. Alternatively, there can be, how the state administers those programs can be targeted to more mixed income as opposed to sort of lower incomes. So there are ways of the allocating agencies directing those monies and giving priorities to projects that do have a workforce housing component. But to Steve's point, there's never been a political will to do that because in a limited subsidy environment, it's hard. There's a lot of folks out there that are saying, why are we subsidizing workforce housing when we don't have enough at the lower income levels? Let's solve that issue first and then move up to workforce housing.